Hi everybody, it's Crazy, it's Monday, and it's time for the UPBGE video of the week. Now before I get started, gotta give a shout out to my trusted, because you guys rock. To my Crazy fam, I love you guys. Now we're up to episode number 87, and last week we left off with custom GLSL shaders. This is part 2, which is continued. And what we're going to be doing is going into a basically a programming language editor. Okay, I'm using Visual Studio Code. A lot of people like using it, but it's just so that you can see the syntaxes and how this actually looks when we get done. I went to try to do it in Blender, but I forgot Blender is Python. So if you're interested in learning a little bit of Python, going back to my very first episode of my Python experience and follow along with that, you might be able to learn something a little bit about Python. But this is actually C++, which is, I have no clue how it works, but all programming languages are kind of the same. There's just some things that are different, okay? And I'm not going to try to teach you how to do it. I'm just following along in the book. So I wouldn't be able to answer any C++ questions you have. So best thing to do is jump on into the server and ask any of the guys in there, or you can go to the Discord server, the UPBGE Discord server, and ask them, because a lot of them do a lot of C++ work, okay? All right, so let's get started. Custom GLSL shaders. So now that you have learned the basics of GLSL, are you ready to tackle your first complete GLSL shader? If not, and you don't want to do any of this programming stuff, just go ahead and close on out, and we'll see you next week. If you are interested in trying to tinker around with this a little bit to see if you can do it, let's give it a whirl. Let's get started. Okay, so this is the first part of the code. It's called void main and brackets, and then this funky bracket right here, okay? If you hit enter, you notice that bracket automatically jumps to the bottom. It's okay, don't freak out. GL underscore frag color dot RGBA, which is red, green, blue, and you got it, alpha. Okay, equals vec4 colon 0.9, that's your red. Oops. 0.4, that's your green. 0.2 and 1.0, which is your alpha. So red, red, green, blue, alpha. Easiest way to remember it, okay? Then you're going to put this in there, okay? I don't know all the lingo to those characters, but it's all part of the programming. All right. Okay, so that's it. This one-line fragment shader will assign each output pixel a predefined variable by the name of GL underscore frag color, and the color is going to be 0.9, 0.4, 0.2, which happens to be a pleasant orange. The last value sets the alpha to 1 to make sure that the face is completely visible. One of the requirements for any valid GLSL shader is that it contains both a vertex shader and a fragment shader. So supplying only the fragment shader above is not quite enough. You need a vertex shader as well. But in most cases, you don't want to do anything fancy with the vertices. So a simple, this is what it's talking about here. You're going to go, I believe you hit enter. Hope not. Yeah, so you go one down and you hit void. Is it you? No. Let's try that again. Void main We'll do this one here again. We'll hit enter and hit GL underscore position equals F transform. Yep, form. And then just keep the brackets like that. Hit a space over. Tap this little guy right here, and now you've got your fragment shader. Okay. Okay. So this right here is enough. It tells GLSL that you want the vertex to stay in the same position as it would if you used a fixed transform pipeline. Okay. In Blender, to use custom GLSL shaders as a replacement for any regular material, you need to run a Python script that helps bind the GLSL shader to a material at runtime. A complete script is shown below. Okay, so I'm going to scroll this up. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to hit that. And this right here is what it's talking about. Is this right here is a shader in, okay, in Python is what this is. Okay. Alright, so we'll switch back over to here real quick. It says, alright, if you're feeling faint, don't panic. Just wait until you get to chapter 7. This script has a nice blend of Python and GLSL, but it's not complicated once you break it down. Python will be formally introduced in chapter 7. You can skip ahead and read the relevant part first before continuing from here. Okay, so if you feel like you want to learn more about it, jump on down there, chapter 7, and get a little bit of knowledge about it, and then come back. But I'm just going to continue going through because we got to figure out how to do this. Okay, so I'm actually going to now bring up UPBGE, because up here you have a little text window, and this is a brand new file. There's nothing on it. Let me if I can get my cursor to quit going sideways. Go, and then I'm going to bring it down. Okay, and then I'm going to come down here where it shows that module PY. Go ahead and just click the little plus mark here. That starts you a whole new one. Make sure these three right here, your line numbering, your word wrap, and your syntaxes are all highlighted, so that way you can actually use it. Okay. Okay, so line one loads the BGE Python module, which allows us to use the BGE API within the Python script. So we're going to put in here, okay, let's see, we're going to put what we had from that list that we're saying, okay, on the first line. It's from BGE, which is Blender Game Engine, if you would like to know. Import logic. Logic is very important to import into Blender when you're working with code. It's one of the things that you want to make sure you have your logic, because logic does a lot. Okay, you're gonna see a lot more of that. Okay, hit shader object equals, and if I mess up, don't ridicule me too much. I am not a typist. I'm a typoist. Okay. Get current scene all on one strip. Okay, logic.get current scene. Put your brackets in. Dot objects, all lowercase. Dot get. Okay, and anything that's in parentheses, it's going to look for, because you're asking for a specific thing. You're telling it a specific thing. I want cube. So you're looking for that one specific thing, okay? Now hit enter one more time. Hit vertex shader. Vertex shader. Okay. All one word equals 3 parentheses like that, okay? And then you're going to hit enter. Now we're going to put our void main and all that other stuff that we just typed over in, where's it at? Right here. Okay, all this stuff is going to go a little bit past those 3 quotes, okay? So let me go back over to here, okay? And I'm going to avoid that, okay? So because I am pressed for time, I'm just going to highlight this, but you can copy it directly from the book. Hit Control C, and all you're going to do is bring it right back into here. You're going to hit Control V, which will put it right in here for you, okay? Now you've got it in there. You notice that all this is orange. It's not doing anything. It's not going to do anything because that's not what it's for, okay? Once I do that, I'm back into Python. It's using this information, okay? And then you hit a space, okay? It should be, I'm missing a space. Oh, okay. All they did was just move this down here, is all they did. Okay, so you should be on number 11, and this one's going to be called Fragment Shader equals, and then your 3 again, and then I'm going to come back over to here where I had it in here, and now you're going to take this one right here, and you're going to do the same exact thing. Control C. You're going to come back over here to your to Blender, or not Blender, but a BGE. Probably going to have a Blender window pop up here any second. Yep, there it goes. I messed up. I hit the wrong one. Give me just a second. There we go. Okay, Control V, and I'm going to move that down just so it adds to it. Hit that, and then, okay, and you're going to put 3 more of those. Okay, so that puts you on line 16. Okay, now we're going to skip one more line, go down one more line. Okay, we're going to skip 17, and now we're going to start from 18. We're going to put 4 mesh, okay, in shader object. Did I spell that right? I hope so. Dot meshes colon. Okay, so now we'll break this down real quick. Your mesh is your cube. Okay, whatever that mesh is, okay, which is going to be this guy right here. Okay, because that's your current scene, that's your object, and you're going to get the cube. Your cube is a mesh, okay? It's going to say that in the shader object, which you've made this, your shader object, which was your cube, okay? And it's going to say dot meshes. So if there's more than one mesh in that cube, okay, then it's going to add that in there as well, okay? So I want you to understand that. All right, so for material in mesh dot materials colon. Okay, so what that does, it's saying for the material, each material in meshes dot material, so all your materials that you have in that mesh, it's going to cycle through them. Okay, this may have to be another part because it's going to take a little bit because I'm already at 13 minutes and I try to keep them around 10 minutes, so it's going to be a 20-minute video just to get through this part. Okay, so let's see here. Then we go shader equals material dot get shader brackets. Okay, now underneath that, if shader does, let's see, where's my exclamation? It does not equal, okay, none and not, oops, and not shader dot is valid colon that. So if it says if there is no shader, okay, if there is none, or the shader's not valid, okay, Then we're going to do this. Shader dot set source. Sorry for the slow typing, guys. I'm not like I said, I'm a typo king here. Vertex shader, comma, fragment shader, comma, space, true. Bracket. Okay? So what this is going to do is it's going to say, if this is not there, then you're going to make this vertex shader and fragment shader, and you're going to make it true. This is going to happen. Okay? That's all that's saying. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read just, it's going to go into detail real quick about how each line is used. And then we'll go, then I'll probably just, yeah. I'm just going to hold off there. That'd be the best way because I'm at 16 minutes. All right, so save this for next week, okay? And what we're gonna do is we're gonna go over it. We're gonna go over the whole thing, and it's gonna tell you. We're gonna tell you everything about how to do this, okay? So stick with it. If you think you've got it figured out and you can go on with it, or you want to read ahead more, do it. I'm begging you to give it a go. Give it a try. The best way to learn is to play around with it. You can't, do it any other way. Let's see here. There we go. We're going to put it back over here. So I actually going to leave off on page 43. Okay, just because we have the code. Coding, can be a little bit stressful, especially if you don't know what you're doing. Okay, if you're just now learning this, or you have never worked with code before, this right here can be very, very confusing. And trust me, when I first started doing Python, it was so confusing. And when I finally started catching on and understanding, it makes more sense now than it ever did. And once you get to learning it, it's completely a different animal when you start looking at things differently. And like, I would never be able to tell you how to do these. I mean, I've done enough of them that I can say, okay, mesh in shader object meshes, to most people, that's gobbledygook. That makes no sense. But it does make sense. It says for every mesh in the shader object dot meshes. Okay, so that shader object has meshes, and you got to figure out what meshes they are. Now, I believe it's each side. Not sure. That's also faces. But it's for saying for every mesh, okay, in that shader object, you're going to do this. And then it says, okay, for every material in that shader mesh, okay, in that mesh, you're going to do this. And then if the shader isn't there, you're going to put one in. Okay? Plain and simply broke down, and it's using these, okay, because you named it vertex shader, fragment shader, so it's going to put them automatically in there. And it's going to read that. Okay? You may not think it's going to read that, but it's going to read it because you put it in as basically as text. Okay, and then it says, okay, I'm going to read this verbatim how it says. And it's going to put that in, and the code itself is going to be able to work. Okay? So, I mean, it's a little rough. I mean, once you figure out how to play with stuff like this, okay, it's easier to understand later on. So, for mesh in shader object, you'll figure your mind will click on that and go, oh, for a mesh in the shader object dot meshes. So that's my cube, because that's shader object up here, which is telling you that it's looking for that cube right there. Okay, and yet you don't have a material for it, so it's going to try to find a material shader that it's not going to find. So it's going to say, oh, well, there ain't one. Instead of throwing up an error code, it's going to say, okay, well, since it's not valid, I can put this in, and it's going to grab all this, throw it in there. Okay? I mean, once you get playing around with programming, it's actually a little bit more fun than you realize. You'll get frustrated, aggravated, and upset at it, but don't walk away from it. Take a step away, yes, if you have to, but come back. Figure it out. Once you figure it out, it becomes a completely new ball game. I've learned how to make I made a couple of little games in just straight Python, and I never thought I could do that. And it's two little games. I call it GTA Z. And it's actually just a little zombie game. I put some little cars in there to give you the feel of, cars and stuff like that. And it was actually really fun to make. It was based off a tutorial from Kids Can Code, and I've got that in those videos in the descriptions. If you go to that one, my Python experience, you'll see. But if you really like to get into coding and try to figure it out, please do jump at it. You'll thank yourself later on in time. Not right now, but later on in time. Okay. But I'm gonna go ahead and end it there. Page 43. Okay. We're gonna find out what that code does. Okay, and we're gonna go into full details next week. Okay. Till then.